And we're back tonight with more international news. Confrontations between Russian and Ukrainian forces are further ratcheting up the tension in Crimea. While efforts at diplomacy continue, pro-Russian Crimeans are continuing with preparations for a controversial referendum, which they hope will confirm the region's split from Ukraine. James Aiken has the latest.
A Russian convoy heads for a military base near Crimea's capital, in yet another sign Russia is tightening its grip on the region. Russia maintains that its troops in Crimea are only those normally stationed there with its Black Sea fleet. Washington calls the claim fiction. At a border checkpoint with Crimea, warning shots were fired to prevent an unarmed international military observer mission from entering the region. The 40 observers were invited by Kiev but don't have permission from Crimea's pro-Russian separatist regional authorities. Crimea's parliamentary speaker, Vladimir Konstantinov, told reporters Crimea has a severe allergy to observers. He added that a March 16th referendum intended to confirm an earlier declaration that the region is part of Russia will go ahead. Elsewhere, 1/3 of Ukraine's warships have nowhere to go. Russian forces have blocked their only exit point to the Black Sea by sinking 2 aging vessels. The situation is very tense, says this Ukrainian Navy officer. In Simferopol, self-defense military units have sworn allegiance to Crimea's new authorities. The United States and European Union are urging Russia to continue dialogue, which Russia's foreign minister has indicated it is willing to do. Ukrainian officials have proposed a contact group in efforts to find a diplomatic solution to the crisis.
We did not sit together with Russians, but we were able to pass our messages through the mediators. They are thinking. So that's why there is a hope.
Pro-Ukraine Crimeans continue to rally in a determined effort to make their voices heard, but hopes are fading among some. The referendum is just a formality, says this demonstrator. Our vote will not count. James Aiken, TVB News.
In Beijing, chairman of the National People's Congress Standing Committee, Zhang Dejiang, delivered his annual work report to the country's top legislative body today. In his 90-minute speech, Zhang said the NPC will focus on revisions to legislation surrounding the environment, administrative procedures and the budget, while promoting what he called scientific and democratic legislation. He explained that the core of scientific legislation lies in respecting and reflecting the objective law, while democratic legislation means making laws for and depending on the people.
Well, still with the NPC, and National People's Congress Standing Committee Chairman Zhang Dejiang said earlier that universal suffrage in the 2017 chief executive election must be carried out in accordance with 3 principles. Today, Secretary for Justice Rimsky-Yoon said aside from adhering to the basic law, Hong Kong's history and political background should also be considered when conducting constitutional reform. Stephanie Choi reports.
When meeting with Hong Kong delegates at the annual session of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference in Beijing, NPCSC Chairman Zhang Dejiang said universal suffrage in Hong Kong must be carried out in accordance with the basic law. Analysts say this means the central government is ruling out civil nomination and party nomination. The Alliance for True Democracy, which proposes the nomination of candidates in the 2017 CE election be carried out through 3 channels, namely civic nomination, party nomination and a nominating committee, insists its election plan is in line with the basic law.
We don't believe that we have to follow any particular Western system. We appeal to Chinese leaders to apply the socialist core values that they have been advocating in designing Hong Kong's electoral system, namely democracy, equality, justice, freedom.
Cheng says while the central government works out details for universal suffrage in Hong Kong, the Alliance for True Democracy will continue to push its election plan. Secretary for Justice Rimsky-Yun says, like every other country or city, Hong Kong needs to consider its unique history and political background when conducting political reform.
In taking forward our constitutional development, we stress as is the fact that we need to work on the basis of the basic law as well as the relevant interpretation and decision of NPC-SC.
Yun also mentioned the central and SAR governments share the same stance in constitutional reform. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Disgruntled Hong Kongers have taken to a new way to protest against mainland tourists following criticisms that previous protests were uncivilized. Meanwhile, a lawmaker is calling on mainland authorities to tighten their exit entry permit endorsement policy to curb parallel traders from giving genuine tourists a bad reputation. Don't be a Chinese traitor, buy China-made goods. That's what protesters were championing today to persuade tourists from the mainland to stop coming to Hong Kong. It's a new twist to the usual suitcase-dragging protests that some locals have been staging recently to show their frustration with what they see as too many mainland tourists. Many of the previous protests have been criticized by many as uncivilized and unacceptable. Retail industry lawmaker Vincent Fang said today it's an issue that cannot be resolved by the Hong Kong government alone. Speaking to TVB News today, Fang welcomed a move announced by the central government last week to commission a report on the SAR's capacity to receive tourists, even though the Hong Kong government had just released a report of its own.
That research or that survey was only based on the views that we have in Hong Kong. But the problem is, I think this whole thing has to be attacked by two governments. With what's happening in Beijing last week, I'm sure the local government and the Guangdong province, I think they will sit down and do something, which is, I think, will be more effective.
Fang suggested some moves to solve the problem of parallel traders buying up daily goods in Hong Kong to sell on the mainland.
Either do some business visa, or maybe we can issue a visa that's only valid for one-time travel for 1 day. Because right now, you can, once you have a visa, you can travel back and forth. Those are things, it's parallel traders. Those are the things that I think we should stop.
Fang is also pushing for a border mall for mainlanders who just want to do shopping here and save the rest of Hong Kong for those genuinely interested in visiting the city. The Democratic Party will sue the police for damages over the removal of one of its members from a district council meeting 3 days ago. The party will also make a formal complaint against the police. More details from Vicky Kung.
Anger over police interference at a meeting of the Central and Western District Council on Thursday.
If the first people here and my friends know me, they know that I'm a very calm person. And I would say myself is a very peaceful person. And I have been using this attitude in the council for many years. And on that day in the meeting, I was using the same attitude, very peacefully. I didn't throw things at anyone, and I didn't use any foul languages.
The Democratic Party today slammed Police Chief Andy Zhang for publicly accusing District Councillor Hui Chi-feng of causing a breach of the peace. But Hui's supporters say Zhang has no grounds to make such a claim.
At that time, the police officers, they did not say it's about breaching of any peace. Well, they did not give any reason to Mr. Hui. In fact, they did not give any warning before they escort Mr. Hui from the meeting.
The Democratic Party plans to file a civil case against the police for forcibly removing Hui, citing that Hui's actions had posed no imminent danger to people present at the meeting.
We as district councillors, many of us here, will be very worried that in the future, district council's meeting, when we have a different opinion from the chairman or from other councillors, and when we object verbally, when we protest peacefully, we will be taken away not only by the security guards, but by the police.
The party will also seek a judicial review of the decision of Sidney Lee, chairman of a Central and Western District Council working group, to declare Thursday's discussion a closed-door meeting. The working group discussed financial allocation for the promotion of the Basic Law. On the 26th of this month, Democratic Party lawmakers will question Secretary for Security Lai Tong-kwok in LegCo on whether the police officers were justified to remove Hui forcibly from the meeting. They will also demand Lai address the police commissioner's response to the incident, which they have called inappropriate. Vicky Kong, TVB News.
Financial Secretary John Tsang said in his blog that media organisations have misunderstood a report by the Working Group on Long-Term Fiscal Planning. He said critics were misguided when they accused the report of being unrealistic for not considering measures such as expanding the tax base, while assuming government policy remains unchanged over the next 20 to 30 years. He explained just because the government is not taking action right now, it doesn't mean the government would disregard warnings. Tsang added unless positive factors raise future economic growth by an average of 5.4% a year for more than 20 years, a structural deficit would occur.
Of the 1,000 new cases of terminal kidney failure identified last year, half involved patients aged 65 or above. Doctors have cautioned senior citizens against taking certain types of painkillers which may worsen renal functions.
I think simple Panadol or similar to those is okay. They are not very dangerous to health. But those, what we call non-steroidal, NSAID, the more powerful, more potent painkiller, then you should really check with your doctors to see whether it's okay for you or not.
A survey conducted by Hong Kong Kidney Foundation revealed that over 90% of senior citizens it interviewed did not know non-steroidal painkillers can trigger chronic renal failure. The foundation also reminded members of the public that to stay healthy, they should drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. All right, Tony, over to you for sports.
Yep, lots of football to kick us off with. In the English Premier League, Manchester United with a much-needed win at West Brom. Jameson Wong has all the highlights.
And that's the news for tonight.
Thanks for watching. Good night.
Hello everyone, it was cloudy today, rather cool with a few rain patches in the morning. At 5 p.m, the northeast monsoon was affecting the South China coast. Today's temperatures range from 14.2 to 15.5 degrees, and the current temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. A trace amount of rainfall has been recorded since midnight. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? It will be rather cool and cloudy with a few rain patches. Visibility will be relatively low in some areas at first. Temperatures will range from 13 to 15 degrees. Tomorrow's Air Quality Health Index will range from low to moderate, and the maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 2. Now here's the latest global weather update. Sunny in Shanghai, showers in Taipei, cloudy in Xiamen. Cloudy in Guangzhou, showers in Macau and Chengdu. Sunny intervals in Beijing and Tokyo, sunny in Seoul. Sunny intervals in Bangkok and Manila, sunny in Ho Chi Minh City. Sunny intervals in Kuala Lumpur, sunny in Singapore, rain in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, sunny in Karachi, sunny intervals in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, sunny intervals in Nairobi. Showers in Brisbane, sunny in Sydney, thunderstorms in Melbourne, sunny intervals in Auckland. Cloudy in Toronto, sunny intervals in New York. Sunny in Vancouver and Los Angeles, rain in San Francisco. Cloudy in London, sunny in Paris, Frankfurt and Zurich, sunny intervals in Amsterdam. And that's the weather. Have a great evening.